Good morning. We will be commencing this webinar shortly. We're just doing a link to social media. So we'll just go there. Good morning. I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this webinar, which introduces advisory services to bookkeepers and accountants. If you have any questions during this webinar, can you please type in to the chat box your question or your comment, and I will refer to those during the presentation. If you're watching this webinar later on in a time more suitable for you and you have questions then, can you please send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. So let's start looking at why offer advisory services. Bookkeepers and accountants who have previously not offered advisory services have a decision to make, an important decision, a decision that's going to affect your firm, your team, and your clients. To help you with that decision, please consider the warnings that were given by the recently retired tax commissioner, Chris Jordan, at Xerocan 2022. When Mr. Jordan said, "You must understand that if your business model is high volume, low margin, simple tax returns, your business will not be viable in 3 to 5 years' time." That is now 1 to 3 years' time. Chris Jordan wasn't only the tax commissioner, he'd only worked for the tax office for about 10 years. But prior to that, he was a partner in KPMG. So he was a practicing accountant, maybe at the big end of town work, because he was a big four firm, but nevertheless, he had an empathy for the problems, the issues confronting accountants and bookkeepers in public practice. So I think we need to seriously consider his words. Your business will not be viable. And we could now substitute 1 to 3 years' time. So why offer advisory services? Mr. Jordan continued, you should be looking to diversify to remain viable longer term. Viable longer term. And then he closed it by saying, focus on becoming a brilliant and trusted advisor. A brilliant and trusted advisor. There are a lot of challenges facing SMEs at present, and also you as running an accounting or a bookkeeping firm, because you're also an SME. But we've got high inflation rate, high interest rates, and business failures that are mounting week by week, significantly higher than what they were a few years ago. And last week, we had some very important announcements by the Australian Small Business Family Enterprise Ombudsman. If you're not familiar with the Ombudsman, it is a separate organisation that is funded by the federal government, but it stands alone. The Ombudsman is not responsible to a cabinet minister. The organisation is separately funded and advises SMEs, receives contact from SMEs all over Australia. Some of your clients may have contacted them about various issues. The Ombudsman has reported small business conditions have deteriorated 3.5% in the last 12 months. Business operating environment has been in decline for the last 2 years. Concerns been expressed by small business owners about their business viability. It's increased. And fewer small businesses are considering expanding or transforming their businesses as they struggle to stay open. Note the words fewer. Doesn't say all. There's still a lot of SMEs wanting to do new things, wanting to scale up their businesses, trying to find accountants who can join them on that journey to give them the advice that they need. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. The tough conditions are affecting optimism, with fewer people considering starting a business, according to the Ombudsman. And the economic activity generated by small business is currently 33% of GDP. That looks very good until you consider that in 2006, it was 40% of the GDP. So it has slipped. And small businesses currently provide jobs for 42% of the private sector workforce. Again, very admirable, but it has dropped from 53% 8 years ago. So there's significant changes occurring. And Bruce Bilson, the small business ombudsman, who was previously the Minister for Small Business in the Liberal National Party government, and he's been appointed to this position by the Labor government, also indicated that the tax office is in hot pursuit of tax debt. Now, we all know that, but that's making it official that the tax office has decided that they're going to recoup amounts owed to the government by small businesses. So this is another pressure point being applied to SMEs, people who generally are your clients, I would assume. This information highlights that SMEs need assistance throughout the year, not just once or twice a year, because the traditional way of servicing them, basically through an annual set of financial accounts and an income tax return, is not working. And not everything is delivered by a computer program. They need real human input that on the financial side, accountants provide. This is what happens in the big end of town. They have employed accountants or employed chief financial officers. I was one of those, and I was also the company secretary of a listed public company. And I spent a lot of my working day giving information to the chief executive officer and to other members of the leadership team, which I was a member of, but the CFO role was to provide information on costing, on markets, on banks, on international currencies. We were a major meat exporter. So international currencies were very important to us. Making sure export documents were prepared properly. Now, you will not have a SME client that was as robust as what I just described in the services, but they will have some of those activities occurring in their businesses. They will be an exporter. They need to understand the export transactions, the documentation required if they're going to get paid. They need you to understand their business far more than what you normally understand for the preparation of a tax return. So we've got a significant downturn in small business. And we've also got the changes that the former tax commissioner has identified. But this will not only affect SMEs, it is also going to affect a significant number of small accounting firms and bookkeeping firms who are relying on this SME market for your business activities. I think you need to think very seriously about what is happening in the SME market. and deciding, hopefully out of this discussion today, of the strategy that you're going to implement in your firm to make sure you also survive. If you don't think that this is an issue, or it's not a problem, or it's not your problem, this webinar is probably not for you, because we believe there's a very serious problem occurring currently and going to get worse as 2024-25 goes on. And I believe that it will affect bookkeeping and accountancy firms. But this is not the time to turn off services. SMEs need financial input. They do need that, so that will help them survive. Some of the suggestions I'm going to make, I know helps businesses survive, because they're going to be given an awareness of an emerging problem a lot earlier than what happens if they're on the annual set of accounts and tax returns plan. And let's look at another aspect of this. In the Financial Review in February, there was an interesting article written by Paul Robson, the CEO of MYOB, who indicated that MYOB had undertaken a review of a large number of SMEs and identified that they had very little understanding of fiscal management issues as they applied to SMEs. The article's worth reading, and it's on our website. The issues that MYOB identified were that a lot of people starting businesses had a lack of understanding of suppliers' payment terms. They thought they would automatically be granted 30-day payment arrangements. That's not the case. A lot of suppliers are placing SMEs, but in particular new SMEs, on cash on delivery or cash up front payment terms. Now, if they've done their cash flow forecast, and hopefully they had one, that assumed that every supplier was going to give them at least 30 days credit, they've got a problem from day one where they've had to make payments in advance. And that concept of payments in advance or payment on delivery may continue for up to 6 months, or even longer, I suppose, but it's up to the supplier to decide. Or they may be put on a 7-day payment or a 14-day payment, which is strictly enforced by the supplier. The key point here is they need to have made inquiries of the suppliers and entered into an arrangement with them what their payment terms will be. Robson also identified there was a lack of familiarity with credit terms. This related to the SME giving credit to their customers. Now, my first advice to them would be don't give credit, but I know that's not practical in a lot of businesses. You basically have to give credit if you want to make sales. But they then need to understand how all that applies. So they need an appropriate system for the control of debtors. Robson said they had inappropriate systems. That basically gets back to putting due date for payment on the tax invoices. But let's wind back a bit. Before that, they need to have entered into a formal agreement with their customer. This is what we are supplying to you. These are our payment terms. We are granting you 30 days credit, but you will pay on the tax invoice. And we will tell you, and we will contact you 5 days before the due date for payment and remind you that a payment date for an invoice is approaching. Because Australia's got one of the highest debtors days outstanding in the world. A few years ago, we won the award. I would have much rather have won a gold medal at the Olympics. Won an award for having the longest debtors days outstanding in the world. That's nothing to be proud about. And that's one of the real problem areas for SMEs. So the challenge for bookkeepers and accountants is making sure your clients, especially new people to SME world, taking on running a business, they might have been insulated from all of these issues previously, wherever they were working, because the boss looked after that, or the internal accountant looked after it, or the chief financial officer was the one that had to worry about all that. Another big issue that MYOB identified was SMEs were not planning for payments to be made to the tax office. And Robson identified that a lot of these problems emerged after 6 months in business. It's like hitting a brick wall. They had no money to pay the GST, the superannuation, the tax deducted from team members' salaries. What advice are bookkeepers and accountants giving these people starting off in businesses? I think you should be insisting that you sit down and go through with them, that you give them a reasonable estimate of what your services are going to cost. Not tell them $1,000. That's just completely inappropriate. Costs more. And if at the end of the day they are not prepared to pay you the reasonable fee for the sort of services that I'm now going to discuss with you, I think you should say to them, good luck, goodbye. Let them become someone else's problem, because invariably the statistics say they are going to run into difficulties. We believe that these comments reflect the current problems confronting SMEs and therefore bookkeepers and accountants in this financial year, and probably the next and the one after that. It's very tough out there. And we seem to have a federal government that's putting a lot more pressure, or allowing its agencies to put more pressure on SMEs. I don't really know why, but they are. So SMEs need support. And they need support in areas not just financial, but this is a presentation for bookkeepers and accountants, but they also undoubtedly need support in other areas. So what can you do about it? Now, you could sit down and say, okay, I'm going to take notice of what this Towers guy has said, and we're going to start preparing some material. You can do all that if you like. My observation is it will take you a long time, but you can do it. Or you could look at what ESS BIZTOOLS has to offer. We've been working on this system for 25 years. I utilise my knowledge from a public accountant history. I was the senior partner in a firm that supplied a lot of business advisory services works to our clients, because that's the sort of work that I like doing, especially after I'd been the CFO and company secretary of a listed public company and understood how listed public companies run their businesses, which in lots of ways was a series of small businesses put together under an area manager who had an area accountant or a very skilled office manager working for them. And basically that's the way the big end of town works when it's got a number of business operations. So the ESS BIZTOOLS packages that we're going to overview now for you will help you to deliver the services. So our subscribers receive, first of all, communication support. I believe you need to know what's happening in the business world. Some of it you will know, but some of it you will not normally come across. So the first thing is we produce a weekly grant update summary, because government grants are very important for SMEs. And they're also important for you, because some of the work that the client can get the funding for from the governments, whether they're federal, state, or territory, and in some cases local government, will generate activities that your client's got some funding to pay for your part of your services. We produce about 25 podcasts a year on issues confronting SMEs for you to listen to. We produce members alert monthly. Every month we produce a special, this is what's happening. This is the training program we have for you. We give it to you 2 months in advance so you can plan your work days also. And each month we have a briefing session, business advisory services, 30 to 60 minutes, depends how many issues you raise. I try to determine a general theme for that discussion, but you can raise anything. We'll talk about it. And if we don't have the answer for you, we will take note of it and try and find it out and report back at the next session. So that's open to all of our subscribers, whether they're bookkeepers or accountants, irrespective of subscription level. It's a bit of a talk fest. Come along, participate. Training's very important. So we offer to each of our product packages, and we have 4 of them, the 4 main product packages, 10 training sessions of around 45 minutes each. During the year, we produce the program, as I just said, you get notification of it 2 months in advance. And there are training videos produced and embedded in our system for our products that we are offering, the services which I'm about to summarize to you. Now, they're all continually under review because we change things. Things change in the marketplace. We get some feedback, so we change things. But it's also very important that you, if you're dealing with a firm like ours, have a communication tool, because you need to be telling your clients of the new services. Because my research has told me that a lot of SMEs believe that the only services that public accountants or accountants in public practice offer relate to taxation. Because over the years, that's what the majority of firms have delivered. And when they've asked someone about something else that might be on their website, like research and development, they get a strange answer. Oh, well, that person's not here at present, or he or she's left. It's one of my comments that it's important that you're able to deliver the services, not just say that you can offer them. But if you've got to offer them, you've got to go and find someone to deliver them. So the communication is very important. We produce each month the Business Plus newsletter. We've been producing it for 18 years. Our subscribers badge it with their name. It's got no mention of ESS BIZTOOLS on it. And you send it to your clients. It's got 6 or 7 articles each edition. And we try to vary the articles so they cover all types of SMEs, from someone thinking about starting a business to someone that's just started, someone that's been in business for a few years. Maybe they're thinking about retiring, expanding. They need to get some funds in the business. Where do they get them from? They've thought of trying to raise capital. You can do that. Are they interested in developing something new, research and development, so they can innovate it, so they get onto what we call the innovation journey? So then they need business plans, budgets, cash flows. They need an understanding of corporate governance, because they're going to have to form a company to get the government support. So ESS BIZTOOLS helps you to have this communication. We write it, you send it out, and what we recommend is you follow up. Talk to those clients who you think might be interested. But it's very important that your team's prepared. So we have a special program called the Business Advisory Services Training. There are 13 modules that will give your team members the opportunity to refresh themselves. As someone said to me yesterday, take them back to university thinking. You know, some of the working papers or textbooks that your team members may still have need to be reread, because we're talking about delivering commercial services, not just taxation. And there's access to a library of articles, and we're talking about the advisory intro package here today that has access to 350 papers over about 60 different subject headings. The full library is about 580 papers over about 70 subject headings. So you can badge a paper and send it to your client. So if your client rings you up and says, I'm thinking about getting a discretionary trust, what do they do? What are they all about? We have a paper which you can send to them, which quite a number of very experienced accountants over the years have said to me, Peter, that's your best paper, because I use it every couple of weeks with a new client wants to talk about discretionary trusts. I just send them your paper with his firm name on it, of course. So think about it. We then go to a due diligence review on your, understanding your client from an advisory viewpoint is the first work-related matter that we then get into. A due diligence review on your client's business is very important. How much do you know about your client? You know their name and their tax file number and their address, and you've got a profit loss account, so you know their income. But do you really know how they run their business? I don't think you do, because I know that when I was running an accounting firm, I didn't know that much about the clients until we offered them advisory services and got closely involved. So we understood who their customers were. We understood what the terms of trade were they were selling. We reviewed their business, so we identified any loops in internal control, any weak spots. And there's a whole range of other things. So the first thing that we recommend you do is you undertake a due diligence review, which is helping you to obtain knowledge about your client that is 1 inch wide but a mile deep. So you really need to know your client. What do the leadership team members do? What input do they want? Do they understand key performance indicators, or do they need them to be explained to them a bit better so that they get real value out of some of the material? Can they read a profit and loss account? Do they understand what gross profit percentage means? Do they understand the difference between the markup percentage and the gross profit percentage? Because I've seen ex-managing directors muck that up. They thought they were doing their markups and they've used the gross profit percentage. And then they wondered why they're not generating much bottom line. In fact, they were losing money. So if someone's got in their head that they want to make a 50% gross profit, the markup needs to be 100%. But if they only mark it up 50%, which is what happened in this particular case, ex-managing director of a public company. And when I talked to him about this, and thank goodness he realized his bank balance was going down a bit and rang me. We had a discussion. He said, oh, I had an accountant. It was my right arm in the public company I was the CEO of. He did all these calculations. He did it for me. I thought I knew how it all worked, but obviously I didn't. There's a bit more to that story, because I asked him why the staff hadn't told him. And I found out later he'd upset the staff, so they thought he'll find out, which was not very nice of them. Planning your client's business activities, guidelines for the preparation of a business plan. Business planning is vital. It should start right at the beginning. When that person's thinking about starting an SME, they need a business plan and they need your input into it. And we also prepare guidelines for an annual strategic planning event. A lot of our subscribers are offering these now and doing very well out of it, or they're getting great benefit for their clients. A 1.5 to 2 days retreat type planning session can be very valuable. And we will produce for you, you will have access to the step-by-step process of how you might go about implementing that based on the expert knowledge that we've developed from our clients that have done these, plus some of our key advisors, people like Andrew Geddes, who's been the pioneer of this work. He's one of the founders of the Financial Management Research Centre. Introduction to predictive accounting process. We need a budget, but we need key drivers analysed. What are the key drivers? Someone said to me the other day. Debtors, calculating the debtors' days outstanding. Creditors, and perhaps prompt creditors as well. Cash flow forecast and projected balance sheets. The next issue that we will look at in the introductory program is fundraising. Very big issue for SMEs. And it's a lot easier than what it used to be, even though some people look at me very strangely when I say that, but I can assure you it was hard to raise capital longer than 20 years ago. But these days we've got Section 708 of the Corporations Act, which has been in the Companies Act, Corporations Act since 2001. Preliminary advice. I'll give you some preliminary, so you can answer the questions that someone might ask you. Oh, how do we raise capital? How's it work? We've given you a basic set of answers for those questions. So your client at least goes away saying, oh, okay, they told me how that works. Early stage innovation company. Are you familiar with it? I had a inventor ring me late last year and told me that he had contacted 16 accounting firms in 3 states, trying to understand how early stage innovation companies work. 16 firms couldn't answer. A few of them said they'd never heard of it. Others said, we don't know. Others said it doesn't apply to SMEs. Well, I've got news for them. It does. It only applies to SMEs because the company must have a turnover of less than $200,000 in the previous 12 months. Not too many big companies are that low in turnover. And it must have an expenditure of less than $1 million in the previous 12 months. It is targeted at innovative companies who are developing new concepts, new technologies. Because the federal government, under Malcolm Turnbull, who made his fortune out of investing in young companies, knew that these companies need access to capital. And they built in a carrot for investors, the only one that I know of in Australia. And that is if an investor invests in a company that passes the status test imposed by the tax office to be deemed to be an early stage innovation company, the investor receives 20% of their investment as a tax offset off their tax bill. That's great, isn't it? And if they hold those shares that were issued to them as part of the status process for more than 12 months and less than 10 years, they don't pay any capital gains tax. Even if they get a return of 100 to 1, they don't pay any capital gains tax. We should be screaming about this from the rooftops to our clients and to clients that might have some money in their superannuation funds or privately. They've been successful in their businesses and they're interested in investing in young Australian companies. The gentleman that rang me had contacted 16 accounting firms around Australia and got nowhere. Until he rang Dale Crosby. He got referred to Dale Crosby, who produces For Accountants, the website on services available for accountants. And I've been a long-term colleague of Dale's, and he said, I know someone who does know that because he's written articles for us on this very subject. And that gentleman contacted me. And he said, thank goodness, you're the 17th accountant I've rung, and you're the first one that said, you know what early stage innovation companies are? Crowdsource funding, equity raising. If your client's got a turnover under $25 million, gross assets under $25 million, they could raise up to $5 million if they wanted to from issuing shares in the company. Now, there's a number of issues with that, of course, but you can help your clients do that. And we have got preliminary advice to help you get started on this journey with your clients. And then let's look at some of the other activities that we supply you the resources to be able to talk to your clients about these issues. It might be private investment, being a silent investor in a partnership or a silent investor to a business, starting a business. What's involved with starting a business? Very hectic, and some of it we've already covered. Buying a business. What's the information that's needed? We've got a full program on that. Talking about a sole trader. How's a sole trader operate? Very lonely activity. Partnership businesses. Okay, there's a lot of people run partnerships, but does everyone realize the potential problems that can occur? Discretionary trusts, how do they operate? The company types, private company, unlisted public company, and so on. What do they all mean? So that if a client asks you, you can answer it. Another big issue is assisting clients with their charge-out rates. Now, the one that we've selected to be included in the advisory intro package is the tradies charge-out rate calculator. This enables you to sit down with your client and look at who their team are, what are their benefits, what's their holidays, their superannuation rate. Some people do pay more than the deemed amount, and look at their working times and what is the realistic expectation of their productivity. Productivity meaning what of their hours. We're paying them for 1,800 hours a year. Can we charge 900 hours, which is a 50% productivity? Or we think they're going to get a 98% productivity, which I always frown at when people say that to me. But what's it going to be? And the system will calculate the charge out rates, which will generate the targeted profit. It's a great product. We had a webinar 2 days ago, and it was very much endorsed by Amanda Gascoigne, who's an expert chartered accountant servicing small and medium-sized firms, accountancy firms, from a coaching and mentoring point of view. And Amanda recommends that product package to every business she talks to, she said. Risk management, some preliminary advice on the Personal Property Securities Register. I hope you know about it. It is there. It's very important. And it can be disastrous if a client gets caught up by not having registered someone on that. And government grants. I've already mentioned government grants, but there's a wide range of federal government grants that I think every accountant in public practice and bookkeeper needs to understand. Now, some of these we're just saying preliminary advice. That's so you can answer the basic questions that someone might have. And if you're a subscriber to the advisory intro package and you get someone wanting to talk to you more about research and development, you may want to upgrade your subscription into one of our other packages that's got the full research and development material contained therein. That's up to you. And if you know you've got a client that it will justify paying the extra subscription payment. So research and development, the Export Market Development Grant. Now, the next round of that grant will be finalised by the end of this year, we believe. It's administered by Austrade. And now is the time to get your clients ready for it. So if you've got clients in any type of business activity, not just companies like a lot of the other government grants are, any type of activities, sole trader, partnership, trust, company, unlisted public company, with turnovers under $20 million in the previous 12 months, they're potentially eligible if they're exporting goods or services outside of Australia. Unfortunately, the outside of Australia doesn't include New Zealand on this grant and doesn't include a couple of countries around the world that are involved in activities that Australia doesn't agree with. The Industry Growth Program, a great new program introduced by the federal government. It's the replacement to the Accelerating Commercialisation Grant, which was very beneficial to a lot of SMEs who were on the innovation journey. So they started off with research and development and developed a prototype, and then they wanted to commercialise that to get it into the marketplace. Now, the Industry Growth Program has got a maximum grant of $5 million on a 50% funding basis. Not many SMEs, I think, are going to need that much money, but you never know. Obviously, the government thought it was important because they've created $5 million. Under the Accelerating Commercialisation Grant, the maximum support was only $1 million. That gives you some idea of what the increase has been. And then there's general grants, which we keep you updated with during the year. And as I indicated earlier, that's done by a weekly update report. And then let's look at the business systems. We really support the concept that the support you're giving to your clients should be on a 52-week of the year basis, not 1 or 2 days a year when you happen to be looking at annual accounts and a tax return. Businesses need ongoing financial information. They need a system, a regimented system that's churning out results that can be analysed, and if there's a problem, fixed immediately. So we go through the introduction of that with you and show you what we think's needed, and then you can implement that with your clients. The bookkeeping system, we got various notes on that as to how we might help you review that. Internal control is a very important area. Out of our due diligence analysis, or out of your due diligence analysis, you may have noticed some improvements needed in internal control. Our internal control system lists a whole range of things that you might consider, which you can then suggest to your client that you implement. One of the items that seems to have slipped out of the business vocabulary in the last 20 years is daily reports. Most businesses had daily reports, and I think we should be recreating them because they're very important. Just a brief one-page summary on various things. It might have been cash in today, payments out today, bank balance, debtors owed, crucial payments to be made in the next 2 weeks, just so the leadership team's aware of issues. But it might also be gross profit percentage achieved yesterday, number of customers, average sale, or if you're running a boning room, a meatworks type thing, what was the yield percentage? So that's very important information for people in that industry. And you will have clients that have got very important information in whatever industries they're involved in. So you'd make sure that was included in the daily business report. I'm not suggesting that your bookkeeping or accounting firm would automatically be the ones that prepare that report. Hopefully you can train someone like the office manager in your client's business who will be able to, with your guidance, to prepare that report. Just make sure you get a copy of it every day so you can make sure they're doing it. It looks okay. Weekly performance profitability report, we are very strong supporters of, because this is what the big end of town does. When I was in the public company, we were in the meat industry. So we had 4 major meatworks, which had hundreds, a couple of thousand in some cases, employees. So they were big businesses. Yet every week we knew what their result was. And we were expected to be around 98% accurate. But we also had retail butcher shops, delicatessens, and other cold stores and other activities. Each one of them, there was a weekly performance and profitability report prepared. And this is very similar to what happens in the meat industry all over Australia and probably the world. And it's very similar to what happens in a number of other industries. Your clients should be seriously looking at doing the same thing. You will need to implement the system. How much time your firm would be involved in that really depends on who you can train within your client's firm. And if there's no one there, obviously you would factor that in your proposal to your client. It's very important, because if they were expecting a gross profit percentage of 37% for the week's trading, and it only comes in at 28%, there's a 9% variation. That could represent a lot of money. What caused that? Was there a stock take error at the end of the week? Was the price rise that management had thought was imposed not imposed for some reason? Was there fraud? Management, when they get that information, can immediately review it and decide what went wrong. Now, if the client is only meeting with you and the only time you ever look at anything is annually or twice annually, it's a long time after that problem occurred before it gets fixed, isn't it? And that's a lot of money potentially down the drain. Pardon me. We also have asset control and safeguard, cash control, administration. We like the rhythm of meetings being established. So we talk about that. That's daily, weekly, monthly meetings. Cash flow management is built around debtors management, SME debtor systems manual. Fiscal management introduction, implementing processes that the concerns that Mr. Robson from MYOB reflected in his article in the Financial Review are fixed. Corporate governance is also very important. Many of your clients will be utilising companies, some of them for the first time. Some of them got no idea what a director's duties are. So we have got material on that you can then sit down and discuss this with them. Director's duties and responsibilities. But we also have it for committee members of charities, not-for-profit, sporting organisations. Banks, what's the relationship with the bank? What is best practice in dealing with banks? Government, we'll just do an overview on the Australian Security Investment Commission. In the financial accounts area, making sure the chart of accounts really enables the accounting journey to be properly described. Monthly financial accounts for all businesses, comparison of the monthlies with the budgets. And very importantly, key performance indicators and business metrics. I think we've forgotten a lot of this, but businesses really need it. And because it's not asked to be disclosed in the tax return, a lot of accounting firms say, well, we don't need to worry about that, but your client does. They need that information. Helps them run better businesses. In the financial accounts, in the analysis, you'd have debtors' days outstanding, an analysis of items that are included in the balance sheet. And other things, research and development. And what all this is working towards is that you might ultimately be going to offer your client a virtual chief financial officer service. We help you identify the government grants, but there'll be special projects that come across that which we might have indicated to you in our members alert to you if you thought of such and such. So if you're interested in joining us on this journey, you will learn a lot about how your clients operate their business as you go through the due diligence review. I think your team members, in fact, I promise you, your team members will enjoy this work experience because they'll be undertaking interesting and challenging work. And your reputation in the marketplace will increase. It will differentiate your firm because not everyone does this. Unfortunately, I think we'd have a far stronger SME community in Australia if every accounting firm decided today, this is the system we're going to implement. Basically, the 52-week of the year accounting system and the other fringe activities that I've talked to you today about. And by implementing this, it will help you at this stage attract talent because everyone will not do it. I know that. It will help you attract talent because the younger generation of accountants are not satisfied. The various surveys are saying that. They're not happy sitting there doing tax returns all day. Now, I'm not advocating getting rid of business tax returns. I think you really need to consider your involvement in personal tax returns. And the former tax commissioner is saying the vast majority of those, unless they're property investors, are going to self-lodge in any case. But talent will be seeking your firm out at present as long as the accounting industry doesn't swing 100% to this type of service. And unfortunately, I don't think it will. So you will hopefully be able to attract some very capable people to join your organisation. So you're interested in joining us? I hope your answer is yes. If it's no, well, good luck. I hope you're going to go off and prepare all your own material, which someone did tell me a few months ago, but I noticed they've now come back to us because they started to realise the considerable time effort that has to go into writing systems manuals, writing forms, testing them, training the team. It all takes time. So if you answered yes, we sincerely hope that you are interested in becoming a member of ESS BIZTOOLS. So our special offer to you, the advisory package that I've overviewed to you today, you can pay it in 12 monthly payments including GST, of $89.10. Yes, only $89.10. Or you can pay us an upfront discounted payment, which will give you a saving of $891 for GST. Now, this special price is only available to the 31st of August. Now, you might decide you need a bit more, and that's in our starter package, because our packages go up in steps. And you can find more by going to our website, www.essbiztools.com.au. Under packages, you can click on and it will show you the overview of what's in that package. So it's 12 monthly payments of $178, including GST, or an upfront discounted annual payment of $1,782. And that special price is available to the 31st of August. I hope you're able to join us. And within 24 hours of completing that subscription and the payment options, we will be in contact with you and getting you started. So now's the time for action. I honestly believe that. Bookkeepers and accountants are the obvious people to offer that assistance. There are others, but I would prefer bookkeepers and accountants are the main group offering these services. But the drop-off in numbers of SMEs is going to affect bookkeepers and accountancy firms unless you do something about this. And I really believe the only way you can do anything about it is to offer more services which will help those SMEs that are continuing in business, and there's still a lot of them, to run better and more profitable businesses, to get the answers so they can make changes, confidently make changes, not just guessing. Our suggestion, therefore, is please go on now to www.essbiztools.com.au. On that page, which we will show you, which is the page for our non-subscribers, you click on packages and pricing, then click on the product package that you've selected, either the starter package or the advisory intro package. If you're interested in the advanced package, you can click on and have a look at that and the financial forecasting package, but they are more expensive, but you get a lot more material. Click on the product package that you wish to subscribe for, complete the subscription process, and our friendly team will contact you within 24 hours. And you can then discover the journey of additional services. You can get involved to deliver this to your clients. We look forward to being able to assist you and your team on this very exciting journey. Thank you for your participation in this webinar. If you have any questions, can you please send them through to me? peter@essbiztools.com.au. We will get back to you. I really hope to hear from you. Stay safe. Have a great day. Goodbye. And we look forward to being of service to you, because you're the key conduit to assisting SMEs to overcome the difficulties that they have in this marketplace. Goodbye.